UBC, inspiring Uganda.
I am Benjamin Kumumanya, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Local Government. The Minister of Local Government is responsible for coordinating, directing, and guiding local governments. And when we talk about coordinating local governments, we are talking about 135 districts, 10 cities, and 31 municipalities. These are 176 self-accounting votes. They have an infrastructure, they have a political structure, they have a technical structure, and they have a vote. They receive funds from central government, they collect local revenue, and they deliver services to the population within their jurisdiction. Now, the journey of local government dates back, because there has always been a responsible ministry for local government. But it is more pronounced with the onset of decentralization, which started, you could say, around 1987. 1987 is when there was a commission of inquiry into local governments, and it made proposals which were turned into a white paper, which was taken to cabinet, and this resulted into approval of decentralization in 1992. When decentralization was approved in 1992, the first legislation was enacted by the then NRC, and that was Statute number 15 of 1993. And this statute empowered local governments to handle a number of functions and powers across the board, but I can break them into about 5 of them. The first of one was political decentralization. It provided for elected councils at various levels, from the village to the parish. Those are called administrative units. They are not body corporates. But then you have the town councils, the sub-counties, the divisions, municipalities, cities, and districts, which are body corporates. So this law established these local governments and provided them with powers to manage the political processes of those local governments, of the people in their jurisdiction. Now, this was a matter of governance. You are empowering the people of Uganda to take charge of the governance of the people that they are in charge of in that jurisdiction. This was a matter of participation, actually popular participation, where you have allowed people to participate in shaping their own destiny. For example, in the recent past, you have seen that we have had effects of heavy rains and we have had problems. Now, when you relate that to decentralization, it means that the people who are directly affected by whatever happens around them are the ones who should have a political structure to make decisions that are going to solve that problem. The second one was administrative decentralization, which empowered local governments to recruit their staff, so that Obonji recruits its staff. Ntoroko does the same. Rwanda does the same. Maracha does the same. So that the people who are employed to deliver services, the doctors, the teachers, the community development officers of a particular district are recruited in that district. So that was administrative decentralization. Then the third one was, of course, planning decentralization, where local governments were empowered to make plans and also choose their priorities and fit those plans in their available resources. The first one was physical decentralization, where local governments were empowered to collect revenue, sit and appropriate budgets, and allocate funds to the needs that are really having direct impact to their priorities as well as their political manifestos, because these councillors are elected, they campaign, and they also have manifestos. And then the fifth one was that they were meant to do bylaws, ordinances, as statutory legislations to implement the bigger roles which are done by the national parliament. So that when we talk about decentralization, we are talking about those things. But in 2006, we added on local economic development, meaning that local governments should not remain as organs of governance and administration, but they should also participate in projects which can generate local economic activities, which can contribute to the other efforts for improving economic conditions of the districts. Now, when you look at the journey now, in 2023, we want to look back and find out what have been our major achievements. The first achievement is that the people of Uganda, through decentralization, have been given opportunity to decide, to deliberate, to appreciate, to internalize, to discuss issues which affect them. And these are roads, those connecting roads in the districts. These districts sit down and plan where to put money which is allocated by central government, which roads to work on, by looking at the contribution of those roads, the condition of those roads, and the importance of those roads. Of course, all roads are important, but when you look at, for example, economic activities or social activities and social amenities, you can choose and say, let's start with this road because the ultimate gain from this road has a bigger contributory factor to the welfare and well-being of the district. So that one has been happening where the popular participation, the participation into governance, the involvement of the people. And the question of governance is a conventional matter. Everywhere, right from even a small community, or if you go to the churches, if you go to schools, and you go to all communities, there is always the need for people to participate in managing their affairs. In some places, they get deprived, which is not good. The good news for this journey, for us and Ministry of Local Government, is that the government, the NRM government, right from 1987 to 93 and years after, was able to hand over, to allow, to empower the people to govern themselves in the local governments. Now, I would like to mention that in this journey, we have had challenges whereby a number of things have taken place over the time. The first issue which has happened is that when this decentralization was adopted in 1993, it was incorporated into our constitution in 1995. And the constitution gave us certain statutory functions to perform, which unfortunately were not performed very well. And that's why the reason why, and that's the message I want to give at the end, that's why there is some problem somewhere. For example, if you go to Article 176(2)(e) of the Constitution, it had stipulated that appropriate measures shall be taken to enable local government units initiate, execute, and plan for issues affecting the people in their jurisdiction. Now, statutorily, that meant that there are other people who had a comparative advantage, who were meant to carry out appropriate measures in supporting local government through capacity building, through technical guidance, through retraining, through empowerment, exposure, to enable these local governments to continue doing a good job, which had been handed over to them by decentralization. But unfortunately, not much was done in that area to build the capacity of these local governments, especially in the recent times. For example, we used to have a massive induction at the beginning of every tenure of local council leaders. And we would carry out induction both at the district, municipal, town council, and sub-county levels. Now, in the recent past, we have had challenges in carrying out that massive induction. Massive induction would help to refresh, to redirect, to expose the minds of these elected leaders to appreciate the job they are going to do. But unfortunately, we have not done that one. So the message I give as we go through this journey is that for us to maximize the benefits of this empowerment, of this participatory democracy, of this popular participation of all our elected leaders, we need to train them, we need to guide them, we need to build their capacity, we need to support them, to enable them execute as stipulated, because it actually, as I mentioned, says, if I want to repeat it verbatim, says appropriate measures shall be taken, the word shall, for decentralization to succeed, to enable local government units to plan, initiate, and execute policies in respect of all matters affecting the people within their jurisdiction. So in other words, my message is to call upon especially MDAs that ministries should go down, should leave Kampala and go to Ntoroko. They should go to Buramburi. They should go to Karangara. They should go to Bundubujo and support and equip these local government people to be able to do the work that we have always done at the center. I wish to make one emphasis that by 1987, it was even clear that the central government, which was there actually and in existence that time, and even remember, that was even before retrenchment, where even the workforce was bigger than it is today. But the central government could not reach all parts of Uganda. Forget about the fact that we only had 39 districts. Now we have 135 plus 10 cities. So there is no way how people can sit in Kampala and be able to reach out to all corners of Uganda. Secondly, it is also not proper for people to sit in Kampala and try to think for the people in all those corners of this country, in Urisa, on Lake Albert, in Buvuma, in the islands. So my message is that we need to go down ourselves and support them from there. I wish to inform viewers that over the time, we have been able to create adequate structures in the local governments. For example, in every local government, as per structure, there is supposed to be 9 heads of departments. These 9 heads of departments are headed by assistant commissioner's rank, which is scale U1SE. So if we have 9 assistant commissioners, one is heading finance, one is heading planning, one is heading natural resource, and they come together and they constitute what we call the technical planning committee, which is chaired by the cow. What thing cannot be determined and done by that force of those 10 people? When you add division heads, they become 15. But unfortunately, many times even, there are issues where you find we have vacancies. In some places, we don't have wage, but in some places, there have been other distortions, which distortions have not been solved by technical line ministries. When you go to the Local Government Act, Cap 243, Section 96. Section 96 of the Local Government Act stipulates that, and I want to read verbatim, it stipulates that for purposes of ensuring implementation of national policies, and adherence to performance standards on the part of local governments. This is what I was thinking. Ministries shall inspect, monitor, and where necessary offer technical advice, support, supervision, and training within their respective sectors. But how much have these ministries done to support local governments to ensure the implementation of national policies and adherence to performance standards? What they have done has been minimal. So my appeal and my message in this journey is that while we have achieved a lot, because if you get statistics, if you look at the ratio of the civil servants who have been hired vis-a-vis the population in terms of teachers, in terms of medical workers, in terms of other sectors, the ratios have gone up as a result of recruitments under the decentralized system of local governments. So the way forward means ministries must get out as per dictates of Section 96 and carry out inspection and monitoring. I wish to emphasize that the issue of inspection, the issue of monitoring, has not started with my statement today. Neither did it start with the enactment of Section 96 in the Local Government Act of 1997 as amended. It started in the 16th century when Thomas Hobbes argued that human beings by nature will always try to take advantage of every situation to their benefit. Thomas Hobbes was one of the renowned political philosophers of the time. And he argued that the only remedy is the state. It must come in to control and contain what he called that element in humanity which always wants to take advantage of things to their benefit and make sure there is equity, equality, and egalitarianism. So you can see the journey of the need for inspection, the need for a custodian, the need for checking started as far back as 16th century. Now I just want even to go ahead and mention to the viewers, wow, even in detail, Section 97 of the Local Government Act stipulates, and I want to read verbatim, a government-run ministry shall A, monitor and coordinate government initiatives and policies as they apply to local governments. So it was already known that there is a need for line ministries to come out and monitor and coordinate these initiatives. So I want to make an appeal that this should be done. B, coordinate and advise persons and organizations in relation to projects involving direct relations to local governments. There was an issue to advise. People who have comparative technical knowledge over matters needed to go around and advise the local governments. The third one is to assist in the provision of technical assistance to local governments. To sit here, we design products, we look at the weaknesses of local governments, and we are able to now offer technical assistance. And the final one was to establish minimum national standards of service delivery in the sectors under their jurisdiction. This meant that Ministry of Health should put a minimum national standards of service delivery. Ministry of Works and any other ministry. And I'm happy a few ministries are now coming up with guidelines and regulations in the recent past, which is going to help us to deliver more and get more benefits out of decentralization. So, viewers, I want to mention that first and foremost, the fact that in the 176 local government, there is a relative stability. This is why there are human beings in various organs of the local governments doing very many things, but the Ministry of Local Government makes sure that we sustain and maintain stability to allow service delivery to go on. Is one of the biggest achievements. Because like Thomas Hobbes had argued, if there was no system that is really containing, directing, and managing the situation, certainly would be having chaos out there because of that human nature which Thomas Hobbes had talked about, and many other philosophers had talked about. Now let me go to the side of development. We have been able to put up very, very important infrastructures under decentralization. First and foremost, we put up and opened up so many community access roads as a result of a number of projects that we have been able to design and mobilize resources and be able to have local government access funds and a number of projects to put up community access roads. We even went ahead and upgraded that our community access roads were able to be upgraded to have gravel, which first was that community access roads would not have gravel. So we have a number of them. We have been able to mobilize resources and put up a number of feeder roads. We have been able to also, through those programs, have a lot of agro-processing facilities in place. Recently, I was in a place called, a sub-county called Buremba, and I found a milk cooler which was put in place. In that place was operational. It had 1,200 liters. It has been serving the people of a place called Nkungu in Buremba in Kazo. The other day, I was in a place in Nyachera sub-county in Tungamo. I was in Rugarama, and I was able to look at a number of these milk coolers working, and a number of other facilities like rice hullers. We have been able to put up big markets, the urban markets. I wish to inform viewers that before or around independence or after, the system then made sure there is at least what they call the central market in any big city. But these central markets over the time had got dilapidated. But we designed a program in 2008, and we have been able to put up markets. We first did the 18. Then now we first did 9. We did 12 recently, and we have designed another 18. And we are going to ensure that all our big towns, cities, municipalities, we have these big markets. And these markets have helped to give a working environment to our vendors in the urban communities to be able to look for a livelihood. What does that mean? It means that the Ministry of Local Government has also contributed very greatly using decentralization on the socio-economic transformation agenda. And I think this is the biggest message I want to give, that in this journey of decentralization, we have made a contribution by coordinating governance structures, by building the capacity. For example, recently I've been doing some statistics, and I have found that there are so many graduate leaders who are in the local governments there as LC5 chairpersons, as councillors, and a number of other levels. Now we have been able to put up development infrastructure, as I mentioned, and all these contribute to household incomes, welfare of the population is raised, and of course, the number of people are able to participate in the cash economy. And I think this one is a very big contribution. And now lastly, recently, we are given the responsibility to coordinate the parish development model. And the parish development model is the last mile strategy that is going to help to move the 39% who have been outside the cash economy to go into the cash economy. But also, it is going to help us to deepen decentralization. Because under decentralization structure, we have been having leadership positions which have been not very active, but which now PDM has given an opportunity to be very active. For example, at every parish, we have a women council. And the chairperson of the women council at every parish is the secretary of the parish executive committee. The same applies to the chairperson of youth, chairperson of disabled, chairperson of the elderly. Now, those four, in addition to the elected parish chairperson, who is the fifth, plus the parish chief, and then plus the chairperson of the ruling party, are constituting the parish development committee, which is going to ensure that the PDM is implemented as per the objectives for which it was designed. So we are now deepening, because these structures which had been put in place long ago, like those interest group committees, which now are part of the LOC system, are now doubling their role by directing to make sure that the implementation of PDM is moving in smoothly, and the Wananchi are receiving these monies, and they are putting them in the 7 production areas which have been agreed upon as the ones transport them, transform them, migrate them from the subsistence economy to cash economy. And we have really taken up that responsibility, and we are going to use the infrastructure of our workers, the extension staff, the parish chiefs, and all these who are there to really make a very huge contribution. And really, I want to mention to you all that we are ready for the task. Like, we carried the whole task of making sure that the local government sector becomes alive. If you go anywhere, you remember during COVID, the LC1 chairpersons did a great job, and the Secretary for Security, at a time when we were containing people who were going through some of our porous borders and some other points and entering into the country, and they were trying to avoid going through the system, which was checking them and keeping them in a safe place to stop the excavation or the wide escalation of the problem. So the LOCs have been doing a lot of things. So everybody has some LOC1 where he or she resides, and all of us know that LOCs have had a big contribution to help in maintaining peace and order in the area, and a number of other factors that they have done. They have been able to recommend people for passports and a number of these issues. So this journey, we want to confirm that we have moved the journey and we have been able to make a contribution, and we are ready to continue being given more directives and more guidance, but we are ready for the job and we can be able to contribute majorly, one, on the socio-economic transformation agenda, but also for a stable society which is following a very well structured governance system, which is the decentralized system, of course, based on the RC system. And then finally, I think one of the other things we want to do in the short term, we now have to have a massive capacity building for our technical staff in local governments, because we want to sharpen them to be able to move at the same pace, because at least we are happy the political group is, when you look like at PDM, is very conscious about where we are going. You look at the Ministry of Local Government, we know where we are going. So the next chapter is to make sure that the civil servants, wherever they are equipped, both mentally, ideologically, and also technically, to be able to match the dynamic and changing environment, which, among other things, speed is of essence. Now you cannot, with even social media, you know, any mistake, even if it's a mistake by default, within a very short time, this mistake will already be made aware to everybody. So we have to make sure we really sharpen. And I want to call upon the responsible people to design products which can sharpen our technical people to be able to actually manifest the provisions of Section 12 of the Public Service 2008. I normally want to emphasize that Section 12 of the Public Service Act 208, because among other things, it advances about 3 obligations, among other things. The first one is that the technical people are supposed to advise, tender advice to government at all times. It means there is no room when you are not going to give advice. The second one among the obligations is that they must be professional. We want to see our technical being professional. And the third one is they must exhibit expertise. But then finally, I think our civil servants have also been quiet too much. They never come out to really explain things adequately. And therefore, one of the things we need to train them in is that they should be able to document their achievements. Many times they are not documenting their achievements. They are supposed to make reports, to report on what they are doing, but also to be able to explain a number of things to the population to understand. So I am concluding by saying that this is a good opportunity whereby I have been able to give our contribution and accountability in the journey of local government and decentralization as part of the contribution of this interview. I thank you very much. I remain Benjamin Kumumanya, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Local Government.